Howdy hey! Welcome back to Tailosive EV live on YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday. Yeah, we're talking Elon's recent comments via Twitter, of course. The Elon's pretty much only form of communication with us about the Cybertruck, which kind of ties into what my last video was on, which is a bit of a bummer. Unfortunately, I hate to report on it because I'm such a big fan of the R1T and R1S, and I love checking them out, but I think it's a really bad look, and it's also a really bad sign for Rivian as a brand that they had to raise prices so drastically, and I think that probably has inspired a lot of conversation about what electric pickup trucks are going to cost, and that's what Elon's comments were primarily about. I think this was probably top of the list priority when it comes to whenever we hear product roadmap update at next earnings call and people asking about like, so when are we getting more information on the Cybertruck? There was only one sector, there was only one subject of Cybertruck related news that I could ask for concrete details on. It has to be pricing. I mean, yes, I'm curious about if they can make a midgate work. I'm curious if they can tell us more about the dimensions or the weight or the range or the battery capacity. All that stuff is cool. But end of the day, I think the price point is what's going to make or break this truck. Honestly, I don't think there is a price point that could break this truck given how much demand there is for it. This is not bad news, actually. I'm actually trying to spin Elon's comment as quite a positive thing. But in response to Tesla owners of Silicon Valley asking about Cybertruck pricing, like what is this truck going to cost us? I don't have the overlay feature working here, so I'll just hold it up like this. But basically, Elon said, our primary challenge is affordability. Creating an expensive truck is relatively easy. If it is extremely hard to do so for Tesla, despite our much greater economies of scale, and better technology, then it is dang near impossible for others. So I thought that comment was really, really interesting. There's a lot to unpack in this one little Elon tweet. Yes, and there's definitely a lot I wanted to dive into. I wanted your guys' interpretation of it as well. That's why I wanted to do this live. But what's interesting is this is the second time Elon has gone on to say that their biggest challenge with the Cybertruck is affordability. I mean, in previous earnings calls and also in podcasts and stuff, he's often said like making this truck something affordable that everyday people can actually buy is pretty key. And I was rewatching the Cybertruck unveiling recently, and they had a slide primarily talking about cost of ownership of how Cybertruck probably average selling price of a pickup truck versus average selling price of the Cybertruck might be a bit higher, but once you factor in the cost savings of not using fuel and no oil changes and less brake pad replacements, and so every time he gets asked about the Cybertruck, he doesn't want to give us concrete details, but he does want to reiterate that like affordability is what we're aiming for. That's our biggest challenge. Which is weird because I didn't think that was the direction they were going in, frankly. And right after that comment, he said creating an expensive truck is relatively easy. So the way I interpreted that is he's saying, between the Silverado EV or between the Rivian R1T or between those electric pickup truck options, it's like you can make a really high class, high tier, or it's very possible he was just referring to the Hummer. He was just alluding to you can make a really expensive electric pickup like the Hummer, which is kind of cool, but he's talking about how extremely hard it is for them to design a truck that's affordable. And I do agree that that's probably the biggest challenge, but it's kind of on a bright note. I think it's somewhat of a good sign that Elon sees that as the biggest hurdle to tackle. Like they don't want to rush Cybertruck to market, or clearly, I mean, they seem to be comfortable delaying it and pushing it back further and further and further, now to the point we're not even expecting it a year after its original targeted launch date. So it's good to see that that's like in the crosshairs for Tesla in developing Cybertruck, and then bringing up in that same tweet that we have much better economies of scale and we have better technology. So the challenge of making an affordable, mass-produced electric pickup truck is really hard for Tesla, and he's saying pretty much near impossible for other companies to do, whether it's legacy auto carrying a ton of debt and they're not really sure how to transition their business over, or if it's a startup company like Rivian, and we're already seeing the effects of that, is when you don't catch, or when you don't realize how quickly you're burning through cash and how little revenue you're actually able to bring in, you pretty easily start digging yourself in a tremendous amount of debt and without really a way out. And I think that was the scariest part about Rivian raising their prices. And I was very sad to see all the guys from the Rivian stories canceling their orders. I'm afraid that I'm afraid that that means they weren't paying attention to how much they were spending previously, and they weren't paying attention to how much they could actually sell these vehicles for. And they must have known, it's got to be abundantly clear to them that they were going to lose a ton of orders. A bunch of people were going to cancel when you raise prices that drastically. So that basically, these kinds of price hikes we're seeing from Rivian, in my opinion, is evident that they weren't paying close attention, and they're not being incremental about price hikes, and because they're not honoring the reservation prices. That makes me nervous. I get adjusting with inflation, and supply chain shortages cause prices to go up, and that's why Tesla has risen prices a lot too, but they did not do it anywhere close to the way Rivian did it. For one, Tesla pretty much always honors the price that you put in your order at. There's a few exceptions to that, like before, when they would take $2,500 refundable deposits. Now they have non-refundable deposits, but when you place your order, that price is locked in when there's more price hikes down the road. And in a similar way, they never did like 20,000 all at once, except maybe with the exception of the refreshed Model S, but I think that's a little bit different because you were delivering a vehicle that was far better, far more advanced, and with far newer technology, so there was a price hike. Whereas what Rivian did was increase the price of what people were expecting by $20,000 and not providing any new technology. It's pretty much, I think they may have said that the range now for the large pack on the R1T is like 320 plus, but pretty much the same, design with the quad motor and the powertrain, and just the features that they told people were going to be a certain price ended up being $20,000 more. Instead of saying, okay, we rose the prices, but it's because we completely redesigned the vehicle, and then Rivian introduced lower tiered options with worse range, with worse performance and less motors, and said these vehicles are the actual starting price that you thought you were going to be paying. So I think that's very, very different way of going about it. I think it's much smarter, like Tesla did, to kind of incrementally raise prices of like, okay, we're adjusting with the market. We're seeing the US dollar weaken, so $1,000 here, a couple weeks go by, $1,000 again. But if you ordered one before, your price is still honored. You don't have to worry about price increases if you put an order in. So that's the way to do it, and I think companies would do it that way when they're paying close attention to their budget and they're paying close attention to their finances, and I'm afraid Rivian wasn't. So I'm hoping, by Elon's comments about the Cybertruck saying that they want to prioritize affordability and that creating an expensive truck is relatively easy, I see that as Elon kind of not budging on, yeah, we know the Cybertruck has a lot of new technologies and it's going to be a real challenge to figure out how to ramp this, but it sounds like, at least from what I'm grabbing from this Elon reply, Elon doesn't want to budge on price very much. I'm sure that the prices at the unveiling are not accurate. Like, I personally don't think the single motor or the tri-motor is going to be made. It's probably going to, like he said, start with quad motor, and then maybe down the line they'll do a dual motor. But maybe he doesn't want quad motor to be as expensive as I think it's going to be, especially relative to the vehicles it's competing with. So, let's see. Stefan says, I'm sorry I had to cancel my membership. I would have kept it, but I'm a 60-year-old without a job. Yeah, don't worry about it. No one should feel obligated, or don't ever apologize. Don't ever feel sorry for not supporting the channel directly. That is absolutely not expected, and I completely think there is far better ways to spend your money. It's just an option for those who are willing to help me out and accelerate the Tesla fund. I'm very grateful for that, but by no means do I expect you to do it. If no one did it, that's fine. Don't worry about it. let's see. As soon as it's available to order, I'm pressing the button. Hopefully I can be in the earliest rounds. I was refreshing constantly during the unveiling. I wish that mattered, DJ, but I'm afraid it doesn't. It's pretty much in the past always been the situation where whoever is closest to the factory or whoever is closest to where they have a big shipment of vehicles going, they get deliveries first. So there might be a little bit of priority by getting your order in soon, but if it's anything like the Model Y launch, then it will pretty much just be like someone who orders a Cybertruck a month before deliveries could get one before someone who ordered it on unveiling, just based on where they're located. Tesla is not delivering Cybertrucks based on who ordered first. It's not like pre-ordering an iPhone or something like that. Even those don't usually work that way. It's usually like, are you in the first wave of deliveries? Yeah, I think I agree with the Model 3 dude. Rear drive Cybertruck will never see the light of day. The fact that Tesla doesn't even want to make a single motor Model Y, why the heck they would make a single motor Cybertruck? Yeah, no kidding. Nathan Gibson says, I'm afraid if it goes over 100K for the top model, I have to tap out. More than anything, I need the range. I drive cross country all the time through very rural areas. I hear you. The good news is, based on Elon's latest comments, our primary challenge is affordability. I don't think it's going to be over 100. I think I'm rounding up quite a bit by assuming it'll be 90. But I just think like the value will still be there. I still think it'll be an incredible value if you consider that that's cheaper than a Model S, and it will probably go further on a charge, and it's way more practical, and it has way more utility than a Model S. It's a larger vehicle, it can sit more people, it's got a big bed, you don't have a paint job to worry about. So I still think $90,000 for a Cybertruck is a fair price, but sometimes when I read Elon's thoughts on affordability with pickup trucks, it makes me think like maybe they're not trying to budge too much. I'd be very shocked if they actually honored the original prices that they showcased at the event. I don't think that's going to happen, but technically they didn't unveil a price for the quad motor, if we're being fair. Hey, Taylor, have any thoughts on GM pulling out of Lordstown Motors? I haven't followed Lordstown as closely, but it definitely doesn't sound good. I never really quite understood their business model. It always seemed too good to be true that they could make this, 250-mile range electric pickup truck, and they were like, oh yeah, we're just going to reuse the parts from this old factory, so we already have a building. And I was like, I'm not entirely sure if it's that simple, that you can just retrofit an old car factory that was primarily designing combustion engine vehicles and then just swap it over to electric pickup trucks. I had a feeling it wasn't that simple, and it sounds like I'm right, because I remember when I first found out about Lordstown, they said they were going to deliver in June of 2021, and obviously that has come and gone. And between the Hindenburg report and them GM not being interested anymore, yeah, it's not looking too great. I mean, they had a fine-looking prototype, I guess, but I think after so many delays and so many companies saying they would deliver by a certain point, and of course they're always late about it, I'm very, very hesitant to believe most startups now. And I don't think there's enough skepticism surrounding them. I would love to give all these startup companies the benefit of the doubt and assume, oh yeah, I can't wait for that vehicle to come out, I can't wait for that car to come out, because they've all unveiled some pretty amazing stuff. Like, the startup I'm actually most excited for is Aptera. I love that approach because I care a lot about efficiency and making sure you get as many miles of range out of a fairly small battery pack. So I'm in love with the concept, but I'm trying not to get too excited because there's still a chance that they've already tried this 10 years ago and they went bankrupt. How do we know they're not going to go bankrupt again? I hope they don't, because I love what they've come up with, but I'm already very paranoid and very worried now about Rivian because of these giant price hikes, and I'm seeing data showcasing over half of the people with reservations have backed out and canceled. So I'm wondering if the company can survive this transition. Can you pivot from becoming a average selling price of $80,000 to $90,000 pickup trucks, especially with F-150 Lightning coming out? I'm worried about a lot of these startups, and I think there was let me find this news article. It was about Lucid. In a regulatory filing, Lucid admitted that they may never turn a profit. That's a little concerning. How much money can you actually burn through? And after the last earnings call, I was not too impressed. I didn't react to it live, but I did listen to all of the previous, well, just the last Lucid earnings call. And, they went from saying they would deliver 6,000 vehicles in 2021 to then 500, and then actually delivered 100. And now they're pushing off their production estimates by like 40%. They're not expecting to build as many as they thought, and they're burning through a lot of money, and they're simultaneously trying to build a new factory in Saudi Arabia, which I don't think is a great place supply chain wise. I'm not sure where their batteries are coming from or that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm a bit scared for all these startups because, again, there's not really a product that I'm not a fan of. I wasn't terribly in love with the Lucid design scheme, but I was impressed that they could get over 500 miles of range, and they want to pivot towards a more luxury market. I guess that's kind of cool. It's not for me. I don't think it really changes that much in the EV sector. I think they could probably get too much credit, especially when people are like, is Tesla in trouble? Lucid is the new range king. How is Tesla going to respond to Lucid's insane range numbers? And I'm like, dude, they're building like 100, less than 100 cars a month in Tesla's, like Giga Berlin in Germany has built more test Model Ys than Lucid has built production vehicles. That just kind of gives you perspective on, like, they've built over 1,000 Model Ys and the factory's not even up yet. It's not even operational technically. They can't start deliveries. And they're just churning these out like butter in Shanghai and Fremont. They're trying to ramp up, and Giga Texas is ready to go. Like, people need to provide context when it comes to production capacity. That is a big deal. And the fact that Lucid is producing a fraction of the number of vehicles as Tesla, is like, no, they're not a threat. The question should be, can they survive? Can they turn a profit? Can they actually stay afloat? Or is this company going to go belly under and get bought out by some big tech guru? I don't know. Excuse me. I got something stuck in my throat. Maybe it's a Nicola Badger. Let me catch up on the chat here. Crumb Research says, love hearing talk about pricing and effort by Tesla to keep things affordable. I don't know how affordable that is. Maybe the quad motor Cybertruck is going to be 80,000 instead of 90 like I'm expecting. I still think that's a great value, especially with how many people finance their Teslas these days. Joey's asking, what comments did Elon make? So this was yesterday, in case you missed it. It was response to Tesla owners of Silicon Valley who was asking about the pricing of the Cybertruck. They were like, what's it going to cost? And he says their primary challenge is affordability. Like, this is the biggest thing. It's not about structural battery pack. It's not about exoskeleton. It's not about armored glass. It's about drive. It's about no, sorry. But he's just saying it's extremely hard for them to make the truck affordable, and that seems to be the driving force behind why the Cybertruck is delayed. Partly because of the chip shortage, I'm sure, but also just Elon doesn't seem to want to budge on making it an affordable truck that people can buy. So that's what it's about. Have you seen the Silverado EV? Yes, I've done a couple videos on it. It's a bit confusing, which I don't think is a good sign in terms of pricing. They have a fleet version and they have a consumer version. The fleet version you won't be able to buy as just an everyday person. You're only going to be able to buy that if you're a business. And the consumer version seems to be like a $100,000 pickup. Maybe that's what Elon was referring to. I don't know what his definition of affordability is. But I feel like Elon doesn't talk that much about affordability when he's referring to the Model S and X. I mean, in a previous earnings call, they did mention that the refreshed Model S and X with the yoke and everything, they said that is cheaper to build than the last generation Model X and S, the Raven models, which is surprising because they're like $20,000, $30,000 more expensive. Before the Model S was refreshed, it started at $69,420. Perfect, great price, right? I would love it if it started at that. So $69,420. And then they refreshed it. It became $80,000. Demand spiked up. So many people started ordering them. They rose the price to $85,000. Then they rose it to $90,000. And I think now the Model S starts at, doesn't it start at $95,000 now? I'll double check. But yeah, the Model X and S, allegedly, I don't know if they're talking about the Plaid powertrain or just the long range, because I figured the Plaid motors, especially watching Sandy Munro's teardowns, they're very intricate and they changed a lot on the powertrain front. So I don't know if they were referring to the Plaid models, but They're saying it's cheaper to build these new vehicles, and they rose the price by like $20,000 to $30,000. So I assume they have very, very, very thick margins on those luxury models, but that's how Tesla views them, is they're comfortable upping the price like that. But based on how Elon's been commenting in regards to the Cybertruck, uh, I have a feeling that he might not want to budge on the price. Maybe Tesla's comfortable raising the price on the S and X because they're luxury models, and maybe because Elon wants the Cybertruck to be an everyday, anyone can buy this, and we're trying to make it affordable. That's probably why he pushed so hard for there to be a $40,000 option at unveiling. And I don't think we'll ever see that option, but it's just kind of interesting to hear the Techno King himself talk about why he thinks the truck should be prioritizing the cost. That's a good sign. I see that as good news. I don't know how much that cost is being prioritized, but maybe it won't. Maybe it won't break six figures. At least I don't think it will. No one is a threat to Tesla. No one. People need to stop saying things like Tesla killer. That doesn't exist. If you make a good vehicle, then so be it. More options is good. I agree. I genuinely. I'm a huge fan of Tesla. I'm a fanboy at the end of the day, and I probably defend them when I shouldn't, but it was just happening today. I was having a conversation with my wife. She was like, "You need to stop defending Tesla so much." So I'm like, "I'm sorry," but I still am all in favor. The reason I'm Talos of EV and not Talos of Tesla is because I think everyone needs to get on board, and I'm not. I'm not under the belief that Tesla will be the only company making cars in the future. I think we do need all automakers to transition as quickly as possible, and I think startups are great because they can bring new designs, new ideas to the table, and they don't have to carry so much legacy manufacturing methods and so much legacy software. And like, I checking out the Rivian at the First Mile event, I thought that was a fantastic product, and it's, as far as non-Teslas go that exist, that are actually in production, that have been delivered, that is at the top of my list of, like, if I couldn't buy a Tesla, what EV would I buy? Rivian, absolutely. That answer might change now because of the price hikes, but even then, I would probably order the standard range dual motor Rivian that's $70,000 and only goes 260 miles. Not a great value, but I loved the software approach, I loved the interior, and I loved the practicality of that design. So no, the Model S purchase price starts at 95. I think you're looking at potential savings, Alpha. If you switch to purchase price, it does say 95. I was just checking it out. But yeah, like, I'm a fan of more EV brands getting on board because I'm a fanboy and I want Tesla to be able to just cater to their hardcore fans instead of trying to cater to as many demographics as they are right now. Because right now there's all these people that are excited for renewable energy, and they're excited for electric vehicles, so they're like, let's get on board, let's switch to electric. And then when they start looking around, they're like, nothing else sounds as good as a Tesla. I mean, they got the range, and they got the supercharging, and they've got the best software, and they've got the best autopilot. Do I want to look elsewhere? Do I want to go somewhere with less range and more clunky charging network and not as good autonomous driving features and more clunky software? No one's willing to stop buying Teslas, even with their quality control and even with their customer service issues and their poor communication. No one's willing to switch. So that's what results in these huge back orders. That's why we got to wait so many months, and that's why the prices keep going up, because Tesla can't keep up with the demand. Demand tapering is not necessarily a bad thing. I actually think for the consumer, demand tapering would be a wonderful thing, because then Tesla could actually try to be competitive. Right now, they're not really trying to be competitive. They're just trying to deliver on what they've already said they're going to do. They can afford to treat us like garbage, They can scrap the Plaid Plus Model S. They can delay the Cybertruck, and they can get rid of the standard range Model Y, because they're like, you're going to pay $60,000 for it anyway. We can raise the price of the Model Y to start at 60 grand, and we know we're still going to sell every one we make. They can do that because the demand backlog is so long. So I want the competition to catch up, because there's things people don't like about Tesla, and I think that would be a perfect opportunity for other EV makers to step in. I wish more people would buy ID4s or Mach-E's or Lucids, or how many people can buy Lucids? Probably not much. But like, I want more diversity. I want more options because Tesla obviously has a very limited and very simple lineup of like, here's the sedan, here's the crossover, here's the expensive sedan, here's the expensive crossover. That's about it. And letting other automakers step in and kind of fill in the gaps that Tesla's not reaching, whether it's vans or whether it's trucks or whether it's semis, or hopefully Tesla can do the semi stuff soon. Um, I do think we need variety, and it's best for the consumer if we have multiple EV companies all trying to win us over. If we have one company that's trying to say, yeah, having a full steering wheel and a display behind the wheel, that's a good thing, and we're going to prioritize quality control, and we're going to prioritize having, you know, the most symmetrical and thin panel gaps you can imagine, and we're going to prioritize luxury. And one company like the Hyundai Ioniq 5, we want to prioritize having more physical buttons and dials and knobs. That way people who don't like putting everything on the display like Tesla does, they have an option and it works for them. And they're comfortable with it. And they're comfortable with the charging network and the charging. So I want everybody to catch up. I want everybody to have a nice big backlog of demand and that kind of stuff. Just got here. Did you talk about the Ford Model E yet? No, but I think that announcement was very stupid and unnecessary. I don't get it at all. It's like, we wanted to announce the new Ford plan. Yeah, here's a screenshot of it someone posted here. We have the Ford Model E division, which is to delight customers with truly incredible electric and connected vehicles and services and build the future as Ford's center of innovation and growth. And then you also now have the Ford Blue division. It's a separate division of the same brand and same company that says, inspire customers to pursue their dreams and passions in life with iconic Ford vehicles and experiences and serve as the engine that supports and powers Ford's future. It's like, I mean, we all knew you weren't going to switch everything to electric like this year. Ford had already said, I believe, that they planned on transitioning all their vehicles to electric by 2035 or 2040 or something like that. It was like far enough out that people were like, okay, you're going to be introducing new EVs and you're going to be growing your EV catalog, but you're still going to sell gas cars for the next 10 or 15 years. I think everyone got that. I don't know what this whole announcement is about, that we now have to have a Model E division and a Blue division. And it's more division. Do we need to divide people? Or I'm more about like, let's just transition. Let's get everyone on board instead of, no, we need certain people at the company that are only going to do this thing and certain people that can only do this thing. So it gives them more startup material. I don't get it. It just sounds like a weird gimmicky marketing thing to make people think that they're taking electric more seriously. Grum Research says Tesla increased supercharging cost dramatically in big jumps step function. Well, luckily they still have an option in the app to see to compare how much the supercharging costs versus paying for gas. And right now, prices of gas have gone up still quite a bit anyway. Let's see. i4 is a joke. ID4, Mach-E, Lightning, and Taycan and Vivian have better choices. I haven't even checked out the i4. Could you consider the Model X to be a minivan? No. I don't know what the firm definition of minivan is, but I don't think that's it. I don't think it fits that. Let's see. Talk about Ford's 3 divisions. No, it's just a marketing stunt that, well, successfully was able to spike the stock up, but I don't see how it changes anything. I think you could have still grown and expanded your EV lineup while simultaneously kept your combustion engine business alive for the meantime, because they can't switch everything over to electric right now, unfortunately. As much as they may want to, it's just not possible. And we may want that because we're all fans of EVs, but I would just say lower the operating expenses of your combustion engine business as much as possible. Like stop investing in new combustion engine technology and just reuse what you got. Don't apply too much attention or too much money to that division and just focus everything on ramping up batteries so that you can have enough materials and parts to ramp up EV production. Do you think the Cybertruck would be a great investment if doing videos about it or rides via Lyft? Possibly. The problem is there's so many people that love talking about the Cybertruck. I'm guilty of this as well, but I've also discovered that you can make a lot of videos on the Cybertruck without ordering one. I, to this day, have not ordered a single Cybertruck, but I have made tons of videos and they always perform very well because it's the most demanded vehicle of all time. There's never been this much interest in a single vehicle before, that it drives so much clicks, even when there's very, very minor updates of just like, hey, there's a prototype driving around the factory. And I'm not trying to clickbait here. I'm not telling people the 2022 Cybertruck update is here, or Elon updates us on Cybertruck. You know, like I am trying to be as honest as I can with my titles and thumbnails, and that's why I just say multiple Cybertrucks spotted at the factory, Cybertruck prototype spotted testing at the factory, or Cybertruck spotted at Giga Texas. You know, I describe what the reality of the situation is, and even those videos typically outperform all my other ones because so many people are interested in the Cybertruck and they want to know the latest about it. So I don't think necessarily the once production starts and they actually start delivering Cybertrucks, yes, whoever's in the first 5, you know, 5 waves of Cybertruck deliveries, you know, whoever takes delivery of the first 500 or so, their channels and their videos are definitely going to perform great. But the likelihood of you being in that first wave is incredibly rare, because of how many people have ordered one and how high in demand that truck is. So, I mean, you could make some via Lyft, but I don't expect the Cybertruck to be energy-wise more efficient than something like a Model 3, so that the supercharging cost of a truck is going to be higher than that of a Model 3 or Model Y. So you'd probably make more money just driving around people via Uber or Lyft in a more efficient Tesla, like a rear-wheel drive Model 3. But in terms of videos, if you somehow know someone internally at Tesla, or you know how to be in the first wave of Cybertruck deliveries, yeah, you'll get a ton of views, you'll get a ton of attention. But after the first 5,000, 10,000, you know, 40,000 deliveries begin, you're suddenly going to be one voice in an ocean of voices all talking about their Cybertruck deliveries and experiences. And I think it's probably, Joan Kim, it's probably just a decent investment because of how high in demand they are. I don't even think you need to make videos on it or drive people around in the Cybertruck via Uber or Lyft in order to make money off of it. Basically, you can just take delivery, and then if you're willing to sell it, you will probably sell it at a higher value than what you paid because of how high in demand it is and how long the backlog is. So, especially if Elon is correct and they end up prioritizing affordability, I bet there would be tons of people that would be willing to pay $10,000 or $15,000 more for a Cybertruck just so that they can get it early instead of having to wait several years for Tesla to catch up on the demand. Don't you think they did the Ford E division to get around the dealership network, a kind of loophole? I haven't heard that that's what they're planning to do. I think we should get rid of the dealership model entirely, or at least I don't know. But if they can do that, I don't know how the Model E division helps them do that. It's pretty much still under the Ford branding. Doesn't change that aspect of the business. So I would say I would say it was a PR stunt, basically. It was just trying to pump the stock, which it did, so that the company would look better, but it doesn't really change anything in my opinion. Let's see. If the Cybertruck is everything Tesla claims, it will outsell every other EV truck by massive numbers. It doesn't even really matter what the demand for each of the electric pickup trucks are. I think the Cybertruck will outsell all other electric trucks purely based on production capacity, because Tesla has clearly shown, in my view, that they understand how to ramp EVs better than anyone, because no one else has been able to ramp vehicles as quickly or at as insane volume as Giga Shanghai or Giga Berlin or Giga Texas, you know, building hundreds of vehicles, and this factory was dirt a couple of years ago. I have not seen any other company, whether it's Ford or VW, they're talking about expanding production capacity, and they're talking about building up more battery packs, but they're talking in like 3 or 4 or 5 years. They're not talking about like next year or this year or that, you know. Tesla has this insane amount of cost efficiency that I don't see other companies accounting for, or trying to budget for. And because they don't have those middlemen with dealers and stuff, they can just like whip out a factory in a year and a half and just start cranking out vehicles. And they're already ramping insanely fast with the 2170 batteries. They're going to probably ramp even faster and more profitably once the 4680s are ready. And it sounds like Giga Texas is ready to go. It could come online any day now, practically. With the structural battery pack, that simplifies parts, that simplifies components, and that allows them to ramp, I think, much faster than other companies will with all these complex battery modules and the increased number of cells. So Tesla just has this insane focus on scale that I don't see anybody else have. Um, and that's why I personally think Cybertruck, they're just going to be able to build more than any other electric truck. Sure, maybe the F-150 Lightning pricing is good. Maybe they get it down to 50,000, and hopefully the dealer markups aren't too bad, and you can buy a fairly affordable electric pickup from Ford. But how profitable is that truck for Ford to sell? Are they losing money on every vehicle? And also, how many can Ford build? Even if they're not profitable, how many of these can you actually build at the run rate? Ford is saying they're targeting 180,000 units a year, but that's not going to be this year. That's going to be a long process of ramping up. I just think because of how simple and how few options there are for the Cybertruck, Tesla will be able to just start pumping those bad boys out like nobody's business, and catch up on the backlog of demand much faster than anybody else did. Off topic, but great Talos of Talks videos. Oh, thank you, Obed. I'm glad someone's watching those. Definitely not, the bread and butter of the Tailosive network, but yeah, we're having a good time traveling, and it's taking me a while to edit all the footage from our travel vlogs. But yeah, if you want to just see a more personal side of my life, not so much talking about tech and EVs, then check out Tailosive Talks. I've been posting lots of vlogs there, so hope you enjoy. And if you don't want to watch it, I get that too. I personally find EVs and tech far more interesting than my personal life. But that's okay. These companies don't have Elon to push them to actually get on things. Yeah, it's partly Elon. It's partly just mission statement and innovating with extreme urgency. Yeah. Tim Watson said, so Rivian did not listen to Elon. Don't ramp van, SUV, and truck at the same time. Also improve cost efficiency at current factory before talking about building new ones. Yeah, they definitely did not listen. I was a little hesitant about Elon stating that because I thought Rivian was doing fine. And I was like, well, they've got a lot of money, in the bank, and they probably just want to at least reserve the square footage. Maybe they don't have the assembly line process all the way figured out, but maybe they just want to secure a factory line so they have the square space to tinker the assembly line, and they know they want to ramp production more than the first factory. But now seeing how Rivian is treating all of their customers, both new and old, I'm like, oh, yeah, if you were hurting for cash that much that you literally could not afford to honor the original prices people put down over $1,000 for years ago, if you can't honor those, yeah, heck no, you should not be spending billions of dollars on new factories right now. You should not be. I mean, RJ is getting paid over $500,000 a year at this point, cash. He's not paid via stock options like Elon is. Elon doesn't take a cash paycheck. Elon only gets paid out via stock when the company achieves a certain milestone, when it performs a certain way. Which I think makes sense because it incentivizes the higher end staff, and it incentivizes people high end in the company that no, you will literally get paid nothing if the company isn't performing correctly. If it's not achieving its mission statement, you don't get paid at all. Elon will not take a paycheck if Tesla starts struggling, and has in the past. When Tesla was struggling, Elon was not collecting a big fat paycheck. RJ is, and I wonder how that spending, this is just what we publicly know about. What kind of spending are they doing behind the scenes? Like, as much as I loved the Rivian First Mile event, where they have these media events that last several weeks, and they invite people out to check out the trucks and look at them and feel them and let them drive them, and people get to experience the product. As much as I love that, how much money are they spending on these events? How much money are they spending hiring people to just talk about the truck and just house these events and just talk about getting the brand out there and getting good name recognition? But I'm not saying RJ taking a big paycheck is the sole problem. I'm just saying that's one example of how spending throughout the company might be out of control. And if it was in control, they wouldn't need to raise prices as much. Let's see. I just have a feeling that the Cybertruck is going to be way more expensive than anyone realizes. That's what I've been anticipating. Like, I've always told people, don't expect it to cost what they said on unveiling night. And my running theory, I haven't budged from this too much, is that the quad motor will be 90,000 and the dual motor will be 65, but it won't be available for probably several years. But whenever I see Elon talking about primary challenge being affordability, I budge on that a little bit. I'm like, yeah, maybe he doesn't want to make a super expensive truck, even if they can. Part of me is like, hey, with the 4680 batteries and the structural pack, Tesla might be making such thick profit margins at Giga Berlin, thick margins at Texas, thick margins at Shanghai, kind of thick margins at Fremont. If they're making enough money, maybe they can afford to sell the Cybertruck at a loss for a while. You know, kind of go back into Model 3 production days where they're just like, yeah, we're going to make trucks and we're going to price them really, really low because we want the pickup to be affordable for the market it serves. And we're going to lose money on this for a while. Yeah, maybe eventually when we catch up on demand and we lower the operating costs of building a Cybertruck and supporting that assembly line, maybe it'll eventually be profitable. But we're making so much money from other sources that we don't need to do this. We don't need to fuss about the Cybertruck being profitable because the Model Y is our bread and butter. Maybe that's what they're going through. I don't know. Rivian probably thought they would be fine because of Amazon Cash. Maybe, but this is startup mistakes. This is what you don't want to see, is like giant price corrections like this and tons of people canceling because it shows that they weren't paying attention before, and that means like how much attention are they paying now? Hopefully a lot. It will probably be at least a little higher because they removed the prices from the website. Also inflation. Yeah, I think safe to say do not expect the prices on unveiling day to be accurate. I mean, Tesla does not even have the Cybertruck unveiling presentation public. They took it down off their YouTube channel the moment it ended. There's people that have re-uploaded it, but it's not available on Tesla's website. It's not on their YouTube channel, so they don't want those pricing numbers public anymore. Let's see. Your opinion on Rivian encouraging ex-Tesla employees who joined Rivian to bring along Tesla secrets / information. I have done a video on that way back. I think it was back in November or something. I don't think that's right, and I still think a bunch of people misunderstood the point I was trying to make in that video. I tried to preface it as much as possible. I have a bit of a hot take on the subject, so if you look up hot take on Tesla suing Rivian, you'll probably find my video. And YouTube got rid of the dislike counter, but that video got a ton of dislikes. A lot of people did not agree with me on that, and that's fine. I respect your guys' opinion, but I frankly believe while that's not okay, and Rivian should find out what employees are using those hiring tactics and they should be fired, yes, it should not be tolerated in the company, but I don't think it's in Tesla's best interest to sue Rivian for it. Because, frankly, I think Tesla should prioritize more about their mission statement. And right now, with the demand backlog we have and the chip shortage they have and the fact that Rivian is struggling financially, Rivian does not need a lawsuit right now. And I'm sure that, you know, just like companies are run by people, there are bad people anywhere. I'm sure there's bad practices going on in Tesla. And if at all possible, find those employees and fire them, you know, if they're being offensive or if they're doing things unethically or going against company policy. Find those employees and fire them. But Tesla's got enough on their plate right now with, you know, trying to handle FSD, trying to ramp up vehicle production, and trying to figure out how to ramp 4680 batteries and get these factories online, and then finding the new factory location. It's like, it's really, really hard right now to be an EV startup. And I think the last thing you need is a lawsuit coming after you. And maybe I could understand the lawsuit if we didn't have this tremendous demand backlog. If we didn't have, you know, and Tesla was like, hey, if you steal our trade secrets, or if you poach employees from us and bring over our technology or bring over concepts to your business, then we're going to sue you. That would be more okay and acceptable, in my opinion, if the company was potentially going to get in trouble because of that. Like if Tesla was going to lose business or lose out on money because another brand started using technology that Tesla thought they owned and no one else could use. I'm kind of in the point where, I applauded Elon, and I love the fact that Tesla said, we want to have all our patents open source. We want companies to do what we're doing. And Elon, in a public interview, mentioned if another company came around and started building electric vehicles better than Tesla, and Tesla went bankrupt, I would say that's a good thing. Elon would still view that as an overall positive. He wants another company to try to compete with them. And if another EV brand came around and outproduced Tesla and outsold Tesla, and Tesla couldn't survive because of it, he said that would be a good thing for the world, because Tesla's mission statement is not about being the only company or being the most profitable company. Tesla's mission is all about accelerating the transition. And I think the concept that another brand, how they're obtaining that intellectual property or how they're obtaining that technology might be bad. And yes, that practice should not be tolerated and they should be fired. But at the end of the day, it's a waste of time, in my opinion, for Tesla's resources, because that money could go for other things. For the same reason Tesla got rid of their PR team, because they didn't see the point in having one when they can still sell every vehicle they make. I don't think they need lawyers being paid to sue another startup company that's struggling to stay afloat. I don't see Rivian as a threat to Tesla, even if they are poaching employees, even if they are using Tesla's technology. They're not using the heat pump. They're not using the Tesla connector. They're not using the octo valve. They're not using structural batteries. They're not using 4680s. So I don't know what internal technology Tesla's worried about Rivian having. Oh, thanks for the super chat, Rockford Media. But I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it helps anything. If anything, it's going to push Rivian further into the grave, and it doesn't really help Tesla fix their demand backlog, and it doesn't really help them ramp production to just sue startup companies. So again, I'm not trying to say it's an okay approach. It's not right. I just think Tesla doesn't need to worry about it. There's bad things that happen all the time, like Gordon Johnson spreading FUD, or there's all kinds of people in the media that are spreading false information about Tesla. Does Tesla need to sue every one of them? Not really. I think they'll be fine without worrying about it, personally. Apple does it too, but Apple doesn't have a tremendous demand backlog to worry about. For the same reason, yeah, all companies have PR teams, but Tesla decided to get rid of theirs. I don't think all companies have a certain way of doing things is a good reason for Tesla to do things a certain way. There's a difference between reservation and order. Other companies will sue Tesla too. I would rather the legal teams be focused on defense when it comes to the legal department instead of offense, especially towards a EV startup brand like Rivian. It's like both you guys, you're mad at each other, but both you guys are trying to achieve very similar goals. Both of you want to build electric vehicles that people enjoy, that are safe, and that don't use the combustion engine. You don't need to be fighting with each other. Sometimes there's malpractices going on, and there's bad employees at Tesla, and there's bad employees at Rivian. And yes, boardmen and overstaff should look into that and find bad practices, and those people should be penalized. But do we need to start suing startup companies that are struggling to stay afloat? I don't think it's necessary at this point. Didn't Tesla open their patents up so that if anyone copies them, they're copying the outdated tech anyways? Well, they said that, but then someone told me now that they do still have intellectual property that they don't want getting out there. But yeah. Open patents help reduce antitrust concerns. That's true. Patent is not the same as code/technology. Even then, they're not a threat. Like, even if Rivian steals some autopilot code, even if Rivian steals some software from a Tesla and incorporates it into their vehicle, they're not gonna drive Tesla bankrupt. What? They're trying to adopt software that is good, that is reliable, that is safe. And also people who have Rivians have tried the software. They're not very impressed, and they haven't said it's better than a Tesla. So whether or not Rivian's $90,000 trucks have decent... Oh my God.
Yeah.
Thanks for the super chat, Nathan Gibson. That goes towards the Tesla fund. Very, very grateful. Thank you. He says, could Tesla absorb some of these other companies and operate like a GMC and Chevrolet? I don't think they need to personally. If there was something of value that these other companies had to offer, maybe it would make sense to absorb them. But Elon's gotten questions like that on previous earnings calls, and his answer is always like, "We'll buy out a company or we'll absorb a company if they have something that is useful to us." I don't know. I don't know what Chevy or GMC have to offer that Tesla would find any use of, like real estate or factory plants. They're going to have to gut all those plants and redesign them anyway to mass produce EVs. Tesla has no use for the dealers, so like they have the money to do it. There's just not much advantage to doing it. There's not much purpose to it. It doesn't really help them accelerate the transition. So Lucid also stole an old version of Tesla Autopilot years ago. Tesla didn't sue, so they probably don't care. I don't think, as long as you have a tremendous demand backlog and you're dealing with parts shortages, not demand shortages, you don't really need to worry about what other EV companies are doing. Whether they're stealing your technology, no, that's not right, but don't worry about it. For the same reason Elon Musk doesn't need to personally sue Gordon Johnson. Is Gordon Johnson right to spread lies and to spread FUD? No. I'm not saying he's right. I'm just saying Tesla doesn't need to worry about it. I'm saying they can ignore those things going on and they'll be fine. And I hope Rivian can find the sources of if that's true and there are employees being asked to tell Tesla employees to bring over equipment or bring over trade secrets or something like that. That's not okay. Find those employees, fire them, but do they need to be sued over it? I don't think so. I think that Rivian, Ford, Lucid, GM struggles highlight how dominant Tesla is right now, especially if you consider growth and scale. Yes, I don't think most people quite grasp what the kind of lead Tesla has right now. It's really unparalleled, frankly. What are your thoughts on Lucid Air cost on producing their car, the cost of producing one versus selling price? I assume it's not very good if they're already bringing up in regulatory filings that they're not going to turn a profit, and they may never turn a profit. I assume it's not great at all. So I definitely don't think they should start work on another factory in Saudi Arabia, and I don't know what the best course of action is for them, because frankly, I just don't think it was a good idea to tackle the six-figure EV sedan market. I think that was already a saturated market with a lot of competition, and luxury is a very subjective thing. People get really, really picky whenever you start talking about luxury stuff. So if you're targeting that demographic, you're kind of boxing yourself into a corner of, okay, we can't get away with this and we can't ramp very quickly, because if Lucid wants to be the luxury brand, right, then they essentially have to, like Peter Rawlinson said on the last earnings call, they have to delay deliveries so that they can prioritize quality control. And financially, that's not a good thing to do, because it means acquiring less revenue and generating less income per vehicle, because you have to stop everything and be like, hold on, this one's not good enough. Let me look at this with a magnifying glass. Okay, it's not perfect. Okay, just perfect, right enough. So I don't think Tesla is sloppy with quality control or sloppy with ramping or minimal interiors because they feel like it. I think that having minimal interiors and basic designs and designs that aren't very complicated and sometimes ramping results in bad quality control, but they're doing that because they have to. Some people say, and I've seen this online fairly frequently, some people say, no, it would be better to deliver fewer cars with good yields, with good quality control, than it would be to deliver more cars with bad quality control. Sadly, Tesla doesn't necessarily agree, but Lucid is applying that logic. Lucid is applying the logic of, no, let's deliver less cars. They might not stay afloat. That might end up biting them in the butt to make that decision. So while you may think it's the right thing to do as a business, oh my God, so many super chats, Nathan. Thank you. That's so generous of you. Okay, he says, Tesla absorbing other EV companies, optimize them and just have different styles like a GMC or Chevy operates, or Hyundai and Kia, different companies with different flavors, Rivian with Tesla software. Again, it probably wouldn't help with antitrust concerns. But I don't really see how that helps Tesla's mission statement. I mean, it would be cool if Tesla could make other companies' cars better, but I don't see why Tesla wouldn't rather just make their own version of those vehicles, because Hyundai or a Kia just have different styles. I I think it's probably easier for them to just make their own stuff, do it in house. Tesla cares a lot about vertical integration, so rather than buy up another factory, buying up a Rivian and turning them, because Tesla's going to want to redesign everything. They're going to want to completely gut the Rivian interior and make it way more simple and completely re-engineer. I think that EVs are very complicated. Manufacturing lines are extremely complicated, and too many people probably assume that you can just swap things out. And that was the problem with Lordstown Motors. Lordstown was convinced that they could just buy up an old factory and convert it into an EV factory, because they're like, oh, there's already a building. We've already got an assembly line for old gas cars. Let's just pop out the combustion engine, replace it with a battery. Done, right? Let's just pop it over. And we're seeing Lordstown is struggling with getting their vehicle to market. Even though they've had a factory much longer than Giga Texas has existed, they haven't been able to switch it over to mass production. And now GM doesn't even think it's worth investing in. So I don't think it's as simple as just like, oh yeah, this company should absorb this company and take them over. I'm very grateful for the super chat, though. Thank you. That gets us that much closer to the Tesla fund. The main problem is, yeah, still going to be battery constrained. I do think it's weird how we have like 40 different EV startups ramping to 200,000 cars. They say that, but actually getting to 200,000 cars, that's the trick. What makes a car? Luxury, leather seats, wood trims? Yeah, it's not very clear. It's kind of a vague definition. And it's also a weird spectrum, because, of course, I've been watching John Rettinger's videos on the Lucid. John Rettinger was actually in the last EV stream we did, which was kind of funny. He popped up. He's a great reviewer. He did a good job reviewing his Lucid Air. And, oh no, there's some bad news. The Oklahoma House has passed bill that unfortunately means Tesla has to close their service centers, but also stop them from being able to sell in their state. Oh no. That's terrible. Oh no. Well, I don't have time to talk about it right now, but I feel very bad for Oklahoma Tesla owners. Apparently Tesla has to take down their service centers, and they're not going to be able to sell in that state. Unfortunately, they're going to have to import to Oklahoma. Dang. Oh, that sucks. Why is there so much bad news? No, this is a cyst. Sorry, this side. I had a dermatologist looked at this. It's not a tumor. Don't worry. But I appreciate you being good-natured for my health. Thanks for being worried about me. It means a lot. Can Tesla make an inefficient body style? Inefficiency is also a spectrum. You can like have it or not have it. It's not so black and white. You can have design. Like, I think the Cybertruck is probably the most aerodynamic pickup truck design ever. Yeah, I could probably get it removed, but it's probably going to cost too much. Luxury. Extra features that aren't necessary but pleasant or aesthetically nice. Sorry, that's what we were talking about. Again, that's not very specific, especially with cars. It just kind of means I could consider a rear-wheel drive Model 3. I could consider a luxury vehicle because it has non-necessary features, but a lot of people in the car community would be like, no, Tesla is not luxurious. And even John Rettinger was saying, no, the Model S is not a luxury interior. But to me, I would frickin' call that luxury. That's about as nice as it gets, personally. Big 17-inch display with a yoke and the gaming performance. Yeah, I would call that luxury, but he doesn't. So the funny part is John Rettinger paid, $170,000, $180,000 for his car, and he loves it, and I'm happy for him, but he himself in all his reviews are admitting that this is not as comfortable as the EQS. So it's like, I don't know, man. If I was spending $180,000 on a sedan, I would not really tolerate anything. That's my problem with luxury is where do you draw the line between it doesn't really matter, who really cares? Because it's like, well, you should care. You should say it matters because you spent freaking $180,000. That's a lot of money. So I'm not going to tolerate anything as much. Whereas if you're buying a more affordable vehicle that doesn't cost as much, I'm more prone to be like, okay, it's not the fanciest car in the world, so I can tolerate, not so great panel gaps, or I can tolerate not the best range in the world because it's not the most expensive vehicle in the world, but it fit my budget and I'm comfortable with it. Yeah, some people define luxury by price. So, like, Youngman is saying any car above 80K is luxury. I bet a lot of people would disagree with you on that, particularly in the luxury community. They'd be like, no, Model S is not luxurious, even though it's $95,000. Funny how people look at the Cybertruck and think it's not aerodynamic because of the flat panels and sharp edges, but it's actually very dynamic when compared to other trucks. Pickup truck designs inherently are not aerodynamic. The concept of having this big bed and then you have your cabin with a steep drop off, that is like anti aerodynamic. It's essentially the equivalent of having a parachute behind the truck at all times. And that's what most traditional pickups look like. The Cybertruck does not look like a traditional pickup truck, but having the vault be slanted and having the drop off gradually come downward instead of just a big cutoff, like a van, for example. A van of any kind, of any definition, is just not very aerodynamic because it's not very good to have this big steep vertical drop off on the back of the vehicle. That just creates a lot of drag. Like, if you wanted to develop the most aerodynamic vehicle possible, you would basically get an Aptera, for those curious. The most aerodynamic shape you can get is practically a teardrop, and that's what the Aptera is modeled after. So it's like round, and then it tapers off as much as it possibly can. And the Cybertruck tapers off on the back as much as a pickup truck I've ever seen can get. I don't know how you could make a pickup truck design more aerodynamic than the Cybertruck, unless maybe Tesla made a Cybertruck that wasn't made of stainless steel and it was all rounded off. Just imagine like a giant big Aptera, but again, you would still have a bed that probably isn't going to taper off as much. So, yeah, luxury is a spectrum, though. It's not a fixed definition. But I just thought it was funny that it was like, you're spending this kind of money on your car, but you're still openly admitting, like, oh, Mohammed Beg, thank you very much for supercharging the channel. That was nice of you. Welcome back. I just thought it was surprising that you'd spend that kind of money on a vehicle and be like, yeah, this one's still better, though. It's like, I can understand buying a car and admitting that there's a better car out there, but I wouldn't be spending that kind of money and then being like, yeah, this is a priority of luxury, and they're putting this huge emphasis on it being comfortable. And I can never get a firm definition. I was like, what makes the Lucid Air so much more luxurious than a Tesla? And they're like, oh, it's the materials, it's the build. And I'm just like, what? So are you gonna notice that? Are you gonna care about that? But like, you're gonna be sitting in your car and be like, oh yeah, this leather feels good, just touching it all the time? Or is it, no, it's the massage seats. The seats have massaging built in. It's like, okay, is that why you're willing to pay like twice the price of a Model S, is so that someone will massage you? Okay, it's, not for me, I guess. Maybe that's the definition, but I don't really get the firm
Yes.
the firm side of things. Hey, DeAndrea Brown, thank you for the super chat. He says, I'm late. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Official updates. So this was from yesterday. Sorry. Luckily, these live streams are available to watch after they're live. And you can scrub back to them even when I'm live. So I'm live right now, but if you want, you can scrub all the way back to the beginning of the stream and rewatch stuff if you missed it. But basically, the Cybertruck update was Elon in response to Tesla owners saying their primary challenge is affordability. Creating an expensive truck is relatively easy, and it's really hard for Tesla to do it and basically impossible for others. So I think Elon was saying that piggybacking off of the Rivian news that the prices got so high. And basically I kicked off the stream by saying I think it's interesting, and it gives me hope that Elon is trying to prioritize affordability with the truck. That means that it might not be as bad as we thought. It's definitely going to be worse than the unveiled pricing, but I'm glad to hear that that's their primary challenge. That's what they want to put most of their attention towards. So I'm not going to repeat myself too much for all the people that have been watching since the beginning, but yeah. Tim Watton says, John Rettinger, this car is awesome. Only 7 service visits and a call from the CEO to apologize in the first few weeks of ownership. Well, I do agree with John, though, that it is the first vehicle from a brand new company. You kind of expect that kind of thing. Yeah, I side with him a tad there. I'm sure Tesla did something very similar with the Roadsters. With the few number of deliveries there was probably early QC issues, and People had to return them fairly often, and there's still a lot of service issues with Tesla. So I'm not saying it's okay, but all of last week's live stream, well, not all of it, but the subject that I kicked off last week's live stream with was mostly about how Lucid. This is kind of my other issue with starting your brand all about luxury and premium and high end and stuff is Peter Rawlinson, I think kind of contrary to what Tesla was seen as in the media, was trying to boast about Lucid's quality control and how their refinement and it's so beautiful and it's so perfect and we wait patiently and we let things take time so that we can get it right and they're not trying to outsell Tesla, but they're trying to make more vehicles than Tesla. Sorry, not make more, but be better at quality control and more refinement and more premium and more luxury experience. And it's like, that means people are going to have less tolerance for when you have bad quality control or when you have service issues. So it was funny to me that Lucid was bragging about how great all their quality control was and how refined their manufacturing approach is, and then they start delivering vehicles and they have the same issue Tesla did. Except luckily Tesla wasn't trying to brag too much about that. Tesla's never been about this luxury interior. It's always just been about, no, clean, sustainable energy, sometimes performance emphasis, but it's always just kind of been known that they kind of deprioritize quality control. And I think they're addressing that with the new factories best they can, but they don't boast about it. And then, yeah. Feels like you hate Peter. Well, his comments definitely rubbed me the wrong way, and I'm not a particularly huge fan of the product. I'm definitely a big fan of Rivian because I think that they're catering to a market that needs more attention, which is the electric pickup truck space. And I like the cleverness of their trucks, and I like the kitchen tunnel, and I love the storage capability, and I just love the design and the uniqueness of it. And I don't really get that same reaction from Lucid. It's like, okay, you're proving to people that you can make high-range, expensive EVs. And you just got to make it aerodynamic, and you got to make it a sedan. And, okay, it's like you're kind of proving a point that I don't think the luxury sedan market needed more competition, basically. And then when asked about the 4680 batteries, Peter was like, I don't think it's that big a deal. Like, who cares? You know, he kind of glanced it off, and I was like, yeah, I think you're missing the point a lot about why 4680s matter. It's not magic alien technology, but the point of it is that it's easier to ramp up production, and that's the biggest issue with transitioning to electric vehicles. It's not about range, it's not about autopilot, it's not about build quality, it's about drive. No, it's about making enough of the thing. You know, it's about production capacity. That's our biggest issue with transitioning to electric. And I think 4680s is one of the biggest crucial spearheads helping us transition to electric, is finding ways of building batteries faster. And he was like, whatever. So I just didn't think of it as that big a deal. So he didn't think of it as a big deal, and that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Do you think Rettinger would have been better off going with the EQS and its $50,000 markup? No, I'm not okay with that either. It's just funny to me that you can spend that much money on a car, and I mean, I'm probably just fundamentally against it. Even if I was a billionaire, I would not buy a Lucid Air. Money aside, like if I was a billionaire, I would buy a long range Model X just because I would want the longest range possible. I don't care about performance, but I love that interior, and I love the Falcon Wing doors. The Lucid just feels expensive for the sake of being expensive, and I just don't understand what the appeal of the luxury pitch is. Is like, the Model S isn't luxurious. This is luxurious. And I'm like, what is? Just the fact that the door panel is made of a different fabric instead of what Tesla's door material is made of, or the fact that the seat has massage features built in. That's it. Like, I don't know. I don't see the big, like, headlining, this is why it's luxurious. I just, all the arguments about why it's more luxurious than a Tesla, I don't follow. Probably because I'm a broke guy who drives a crappy sedan. I'm definitely not in the luxury market, but I don't think I ever would be. That was the best British accent any American has ever done. Source, I live in the UK. Well, I have British heritage a little bit, so We're very impressed with Lucid Air, and we're very excited to announce Project Gravity, which we think might be the most expensive crossover in the world. We can't deliver that many Lucid Airs yet, but we remain more than confident that Project Gravity will get an infinite amount of range simply by rolling downhill, hence the term gravity in the first place. So, yeah, I agree with Mohammed. Having YouTube and Disney Plus in your car is far more luxurious. The most luxurious feature in the world is letting the car drive you. And the fact that all of the Lucid, like, they delivered over 100 Lucid Airs and they didn't even have cruise control was like, bruh, you're calling this luxurious? Alexa doesn't even work. So, yeah, I agree with John, though. It's like, yeah, those things can get better, but you're kind of assuming a lot, because we're all like, yeah, the things that you can't change about the car are great, other than all the service appointments, but the software can get better over time, and it will get better over time. But I'm like, yeah, sometimes software is really hard to get right, as we've seen with Legacy Auto. So I understand that we have all these concerns with software with the Lucid, but we thought Tesla would be a lot further ahead in their self-driving software by now. Dang it, I almost went the whole live stream without bringing up Tesla FSD not delivering on its promises. But I just mean, there's a lot of software issues with the Lucid. There's not really a guarantee how long it'll be before they fix all these issues. We don't know how much of a software company they really are, despite Peter saying, we absolutely need to have a software division. I think it could be a while. It could be years before a lot of those annoying issues you have with the car are fixed. I want 500 miles with hypercharge, 0 to 250 miles in 10 minutes. You can have it. I'm glad there's an option for you. I mean, Peter himself in an interview openly admitted that in the future, with a solid charging network, having higher range is not going to matter as much. That's also something Elon brought up recently. I was going to talk about. Let me pull it up here. Oh, wait, I'm on the wrong account. Elon was basically saying that a year ago they could have made a 600-mile Model S, but there wasn't a point to making it because it's very, very inefficient for daily driving. Most people are not going 500 miles. Yeah, here's the tweet. I'll blow this up so you guys can see it. One sec. Elon did not see the point because that means for most driving, which is far below 500 miles at a time, your efficiency gets much, much worse because you're hauling around all these batteries. Okay, basically, here's what he said. He said, we could have made a 600-mile Model S 12 months ago, but that would have made the product worse, in my opinion, as 99.9% of the time you'd be carrying around unneeded battery mass, which makes acceleration, handling, and efficiency worse. Even our 400-plus mile range car is more than almost anyone will use. So I don't think that argument applies maybe as much with the Cybertruck because people are planning on towing with it and they know the range is getting cut in half. But I do agree with the idea of, like, for sedans, you can probably achieve much greater efficiency without hauling around such a big, massive battery pack to get you that far. I'm not saying there's not a use case for having long-range EVs. I'm just saying they're probably not as common as you may think. Especially with pickup trucks towing things cross-country. That, I agree, yes, hitting 500 miles matters because everyone who's going to tow with that is going to hit 250. So it's not actually that far at the end of the day. Turn the iPad the other way. I'm sorry. Need versus wants. Yeah, well, we can argue all EVs are wants. How can postpone my Cybertruck delivery? Don't worry about that, Peter Parker. Hey, Peter Parker's in the chat. How cool is that? Yeah, just do it like King says. Just do nothing. But you only charge up to 80%, so you're only getting 80% of the claimed range. Well, on road trips with EVs, you're not charging to 100. You're charging until you can get to your next destination because the first 50% will always charge much faster. And right now, I've talked to several Tesla owners that have claimed superchargers are kind of annoyingly fast because you get to a supercharger on a road trip and it's like you can only plug in for 10 minutes because once you get to 10 minutes, your car is charged enough that it can reach the next charger. And if you wait longer, you're going to get charged idle fees. So they don't want to get charged idle fees. And it's like, okay, now I only have 10 minutes. I can't really go to a restaurant and sit down and eat. If the charger was slower, like when I was with Model Y Mike in his town, He needed to charge up his car, but we wanted to go have lunch while it was charging. And there were actually several Teslas fighting over the slow chargers, like the non-supercharger speed, because they wanted more time for the vehicle to charge so that they could actually, sit down in a restaurant or shop and have time to, run their errands. Whereas if you park at the supercharger, you can only leave it plugged in for 10, 15 minutes and then it's all the way charged up. You got to move it again. So you can't really go at a sit down restaurant if you got to come back to the car and find another place to park in 10 minutes. So I guess when people are in a hurry and they're trying to make great time, then yeah, having that fast charging speed is helpful. But you'd be surprised how many people would rather have the slower charging speed. Planet Tex, hey, how's it going? You think we'll get any price drops once Terra Texas comes online? Maybe the same price it originally cost before they started raising prices last year. Unfortunately, as much as I want that, because I'm in the market and I want the prices to drop, it financially makes very little sense for Tesla to lower prices right now because they have a tremendous back order of vehicles. And if you did start offering lower prices, do you know what kind of cancellations you'd see? Tesla has this huge catalog of people waiting on their Model Y, all of which agreed to pay $60,000 or more. If Tesla launched Giga Texas and said, "Oh hey, now we're going to cut the price of the Model Y by $5,000," all these people on the catalog are going to be like, "So are you going to cut my vehicle by $5,000?" There's two scenarios. Tesla says, "Yes, we're going to cut all of your orders by $5,000." They just left a ton of money on the table because all these people just agreed to pay a price, and now, sure, it's nice to give them a discount. That would be friendly. From a consumer perspective, that would be awesome. Absolutely. Yeah, sweet. My car is way less expensive than I thought. But the alternative is no, you need to pay the full price you agreed to, but new orders are going to be cheaper. In which case, everyone would just cancel. It'd be like, well, if I can save $5,000, I would rather just cancel the deposit I put down and reorder. Even if I have to wait a little bit longer, I'm saving $5,000. So either of those scenarios is not great for Tesla, which is why even with Giga Texas coming online, it will probably not result in any immediate price reductions. If Tesla's finally able to eventually catch up on demand and actually get the wait times down lower and lower and lower, then if that happens, it would make sense to start lowering prices because you have the capacity for it and you can catch up. So anytime you reduce prices, it means that you're trying to get more people to buy the car. Right now, Tesla is not trying to get more people to buy the car. So eventually, I think prices will go down, but not the day Giga Texas comes online. Maybe a year after it comes online or 2 years. It just depends on what kind of demand they have. And there might be more demand spikes once the factory comes online because people will know they can get the new batteries or something. Don't underestimate how important long range and fast charging will be to people who have always driven gas. They won't make compromises. So far, we haven't reached that point. If your argument, Dan, is that, well, we shouldn't underestimate it because some people who always drive gas, they're going to come to expect that. It's like, we can't even keep up with the orders for people who want EVs. I will worry about the fast charging in the long range when Tesla starts struggling to sell their vehicles. So far, that hasn't happened yet. So far, it's the opposite problem. Too many people want the vehicle, and too many people are willing to pay top tier for the pricing. It might have caused this inverse effect that Tesla didn't realize when they started incrementally raising prices. People are like, oh no, I want to lock in my price because I don't want it to keep going up. So that caused more demand, and the demand kind of caught them off guard. And maybe that's why there's been a huge influx of demand. But until we have a slump in demand, I'm not worried about charging time. I'm not worried about range because there's still plenty of people, millions of people willing to pay for a Tesla that doesn't go 400 miles or doesn't go that far or doesn't take that long to charge. But I think most people will adopt. Eventually, they'll start realizing when EVs actually catch up on production capacity and they're actually getting cheaper, when they start realizing how much money they can save on gas, how much money they can save on oil and smog checks or brake pad replacements, and just the lower maintenance costs, and they figure out, oh, I can just charge from home, And I think that's a very applicable scenario. There's some people that can't, that live in apartments, I know, but a very large number of people park their car in a garage, and that garage has some form of electricity nearby, and they can charge from home, and they'll quickly realize how much more convenient that is than owning a gas car, even if it goes further. So for now, I'm underestimating it, I guess. Let's see. I would pay a premium to have more range. I really wish I had that option. Yeah, it's there. I mean, pretty much in general, if you're willing to pay more for your EV, you'll typically get more range out of it. I have all kinds of concerns living in northern plains with range, but I have a Y on order because they're so appealing. There you go. Busy chargers will default to 80% charge limit, but you can very easily override it to 90% or 100% if that's what you need. Yeah, you can override. That's true. When Texas and Berlin come online, hopefully production will be high enough that there won't be waits for a vehicle. Then Tesla can lower the price. Well, again, remember what Elon said. He mentioned that factories, when they come online, are not at max capacity. It takes a while for them to fully ramp up. And with backlogs as big as they are, I'm not even sure when Giga Texas is fully ramped if we're going to get rid of these long wait times and get back to the days where Tesla deliveries were measured in weeks instead of months. Even when Giga Texas is fully ramped, it might still be like a 3 or 4 month wait instead of a 6 to 8 month wait. I'm saying in the future when there's more chargers and there's more of a network for EV charging that's been built out, people will probably be comfortable with less range. You would think the Plaid would come with performance brakes. They can get away with upselling people on it, so they do it. Let's see. Model S, only if the supercharger is full, then they recommend... Oh, MS. Only if the supercharger is full, then they recommend only to charge to 80, but that's not on trips usually. True. People should spend the extra $500 to put in the fast charger at home, and there will not be an issue. I bought it because we have a 3-in-Y, and the superchargers are awesome. Yeah, I think it'll just, over time, it's not going to happen all at once, but it will become abundantly clear as time goes on, which is fine because we don't have the probably grid capacity to switch everyone over to electric, and we don't have the production capacity to switch over everyone to electric. So the demand is already bad, and there's still plenty of people not buying EVs. So the backlog might get progressively worse because Tesla sell themselves. Tesla doesn't need to spend money on advertising, but the more people who buy Teslas, the more people who buy Teslas, because once you get one, people in your life find out about it, they experience it, then they think about getting one, and then they eventually realize they might be able to afford it, then they buy it, then everyone in their social circle wants one. It's all very powerful word of mouth. Oh my God. What is with all these super chats tonight? My goodness. Well, thank you very much. I don't know how to pronounce this, but Knock MBK, he says, thanks for being you. Well, I'm very grateful that you guys are interested in watching my stupid videos and supporting the channel directly. This helps us get closer to our Tesla Fund goal. I do have some updates for you on that. Thanks for the super sticker. Wow. Oh, knock him back. Knock him back. Nice. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. But thank you so much for the super chat. People want to help you get your Tesla. Well, I'm very grateful for that because, I know that not everyone can, and everyone's in different financial situations, but I just hope everyone knows it's not expected, and I'm incredibly grateful. This is like a dream job for me, and I talk about this stuff off camera probably more than on, to be honest. I love talking about this transition, and I think it's really exciting, talking about the future and where EVs are going. And doesn't YouTube take like 30% of super chats? They do, but unfortunately there's not a live streaming platform I can go to where a cut like that is not standard. But I'm still grateful. Oh my God, Sean, what are you doing? No. Sean Marietta, no. Why did you? Where's the refund button? Why is there not a refund button? Oh my God. Why did he just? Was that a typo? What? Well, thank you very much, Sean. I hope that was intentional. I'm worried that he didn't mean to send that much. That's a lot. That is, I think, by far the largest, or at least one of the largest super chats we've ever gotten um, on this channel. Holy crap! Thank you, Sean, very much. I hope that was Marietta. Jeez, it's just a super sticker of a guy playing the building. Oh my goodness, you guys are too generous. Seriously. Oh my god. Thank you for Godzilla. Yeah, Godzilla the super sticker. Mr. Beast will be here at any minute at this rate. Yeah. Is this the guy who called himself Cybertruck Bro? Did I say that? I don't remember saying that. No, dude, I've been watching you for a long time and I appreciate what you do. Wow, okay, that was intentional. Oh my god. You're supercharging the channel. That's what's happening. Geez, I was not expecting this stream to go this way. Thank you. Thank you so much. You're helping us get that much closer. Matthew John says Powerwall plus supercharger equals charge it in low rate times and killer savings. Well, yeah, I think it's called a wall charger at home. It's not called a supercharger, but yeah. Good vibes from a fellow Sean slash... Yeah, there's multiple ways to spell Sean. Stefano, welcome. I've been watching you for a long time. Okay, we started talking about supercharging and we got super chats. When will batteries die / range decrease? Oh, it's always going on. It's just some do it. Yeah, wall connector, that's what it's called. But yeah, battery degradation is inevitable. It's just comes with the chemistry. Although lithium iron phosphate degrades much slower. But I'm also very curious. I'm incredibly curious to find out how quickly lithium iron phosphate degrades. I'm sure that it degrades a bit, but I've been told that it has a much higher cycle life than the nickel-based cathodes, and I'm curious if we would ever get to the point where the nickel-based batteries, like a long-range Model Y, would that degrade below the total range of a lithium iron phosphate at some point? Like if you bought a long-range Model Y and a lithium iron phosphate Model 3, and you drove both of them for hundreds of thousands of miles, would the long range still go further? Or would the cycle life be preserved on LFP to the point where in the long run you might actually get a longer range? Even though you won't get as long a range at the beginning, maybe the first 5 years the long range will go further, but after 5 then LFP starts to take the lead a little bit. You should do a series where you try to get hired by Tesla or Apple. I'm sure that series would last very long. Fun fact for you, I've actually never made a resume in my life. Thanks to you guys and your incredible support of just watching my videos and watching and super chatting. Yeah, and I don't have any useful skills that those companies would appreciate. I'm basically decent at talking and speculating, and that's not a very useful skill to these companies. Design Media says I'm buying a Lucid only to flip it. Well, okay. There's one way to do it. Just let me know if you want to meet up, because I would love to check out a Lucid Air. Well, I got to check one out at a showroom, but they wouldn't let me touch it. I couldn't sit inside it or anything. How many years do you want to get out of your future Model Y? It's not looking likely to be the Model Y at this point, but basically as many as we can. I don't have a set date of like after 10 years I'm gonna buy this. It's like as long as it'll last and as long as it's practical for our lifestyle and our how we use tech, then I'm good to keep it 20, 30 years, however long it'll last. I'm fine to go much further. You'd be a great Tesla PR man if they had a PR department. Yeah, they don't need a PR department. That's me. I feel like I already have that job and Tesla doesn't even have to pay me for it. Google's paying me for it. And you guys, when you are insanely generous with your super chats, my God. I think typical nickel chemistries are something like 800 to 1,000 cycles. Who knows on current leading cells versus 3,000 versus 4,000 cycles for LFP. I've heard those cycles, but that's not until like the battery is dead, right? That's when the battery's at like 80%. So theoretically, the nickel-based chemistry would hit 80% or 70% way sooner than the LFP one would. And if that's the case, does that mean after a certain number of years? Correct me if I'm wrong. If there's any battery experts in the chat, limiting factor, love your work if you're watching this. I love the Limiting Factors channel, much better channel than mine. If he could calculate some numbers and figure out, like, after 10 years, LFP will actually go further than nickel based. Drew, you never got back to us about Model X Plaid in October. What about it? What about Model X Plaid in October? Did you reach out to me about that? Yeah, oil prices will go up. Yeah, that will probably accelerate Giga Berlin. I'm hoping Giga Berlin is opening up in the next couple days. There's several reports claiming that that might start very soon. I've always said an LFP Model 3 would be great for you, you know, and consider a next generation Model Y in a couple of years. I agree with you wholeheartedly, Tim Watson. I very much do. Because especially there's always going to be a better Tesla around the corner. It's difficult to know what's gonna come out and what price hikes we're gonna see. That's the other thing. You don't know when not waiting is the right thing or when waiting is the right thing. It's kind of hard to tell. But I do actually have an update for you on that. This is kind of a different video that's going live right now because we're gonna wrap up the stream here. So I'm just gonna drop the link in the chat and thank our Patreons before we end. Thank you very much, Joshua Vinnick, Martin Turnert, Wojciech Kaminsky, Planet Tex, who was in the stream today. Thank you for your support. Dr. Mark Choi, who is a dentist in the Woodland area. Bennett Williams, Dylan Zimmer, Jacob Hallbach, Joshua Levitsky. All of you guys helping me out save up for this car. Ooh, don't fall down. That would be bad. Thank you guys so very much. And I would love to stream more, but I probably could do this for hours, and I gotta draw the line somewhere. I gotta get some dinner. It's getting late. But thank you all for your support, seriously, and enjoy the video. Bye-bye.